Hello and welcome to the Buzzerbeater Show, episode 8. My name is David Jones, and today we're going to talk about the last two episodes, episode 8 and 9 of the Jordan documentary. So, after this, there will be no talking about the Jordan documentary anymore. I've got to be honest, I didn't really like it at all. I didn't really like it either, just because just I wanted like you couldn't say like a lot of about your opinion and stuff, and I thought maybe I think the next subjects are probably going to be more about my opinion and not some opinion of, because this documentary is very opinion based and stuff. Yeah. So episode 9 starts with Miller not fearing Jordan because Jordan because he could handle the pressure of Jordan. Like, if you don't know Reggie Miller played for the Indiana Pacers and was a little ahead of his time because he could shoot threes very well and he trash talked the whole time, which would be perfect in today's NBA. But yeah, and so he didn't fear Mike because he talked trash to him. And this is a very stupid quote where they said, "Don't talk trash to Black Jesus." Black Jesus? Black Jesus. Okay, yeah. So at the time, Larry Bird was still the coach. Surprisingly, Larry Bird was a very good coach for the Indiana Pacers. Mostly, like, NBA players are not that good of coaches. It depends on, like, for example, Michael Jordan being the best player of all time, but not being a good GM. He sucks for the Charlotte Hornets. He draft the only good guy that he drafted was Kemba Walker, and that was luck. And he drafted Kwame Brown. Yeah, okay. Um, so in this series, it's Indiana versus the Bulls. Um, so the Bulls win Game 1, and Jordan wins the MVP that year. So, and the Bulls lead the series 2-0 at some point. But then they go to Indiana, and Indiana fans are very. They're like Reggie Miller. They like to trash talk. They're very loud. They like the attention, and so it was a very loud arena in Indiana. And then the Pacers win in their like, and the series is 2-1. Reggie Miller says the whole time in the documentary, yeah, they were the better team and stuff. But I just think I think this is just to make it a little more exciting. I know the finals were exciting, but in the Eastern Conference, no team had a chance against the Bulls. Let's be real. And I think this is just trying to entertain it a little more. I think it wasn't that entertaining. I don't want to say anything wrong. If somebody says it was entertaining, I just think it's just a little too much dramatized, too much drama, so it's a little more interesting. I think it was a good series. I'm not saying it was a bad series. I'm just saying it's probably a little overhyped. And so Pippen misses both shots, and it's like um so this is probably game 4, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's game 4. And Pippen is at the line, misses both his shots. Reggie goes, shoots a three-pointer. He pushes off for Mike, gets the ball, shoots, and it's in. That was probably the most entertaining thing in the whole series. And And I don't know if anybody knows of you the term Mr. Dead Inside, but I call Larry Bird that because he is Mr. Dead Inside. When this shot went in, they zoomed into his face. He looked like nothing. He was not feeling anything. He was just standing there and looking at the shot. I think he knew that this was not the end, and everybody was just overreacting a little. And yeah, and then Jordan's shot goes in and out, and the series is tied 2-2. The Bulls would go on to win this series, but first off, they do like this timeline thing again. The timeline is not merged yet, and the Utah Jazz are playing the Bulls in the 1997 NBA playoffs. And Jordan's motivation is for him to destroy Karl Malone in the MVP race, which I think is like... I'm going to give my opinion at the end of this podcast what I think about this documentary. I think it's very, very Jordan opinion based, and the fact that this documentary was made by... Jordan said what was in the end of it. So what footage was in the end of the whole series. And by the way, I don't like Karl Malone. He's not a good guy. If you don't know, Karl Malone is played for the Utah Jazz, and then he went to the Lakers. And when he was 20, he had sex with a 13-year-old. She became pregnant, but Karl Malone didn't want anything to do with it. And so he didn't support the child. He didn't do anything. And today, this child became a Super Bowl, a football star, but he still didn't want anything to do with him. So that shows what a kind of person he was. And yeah, Jordan hits the shot against Brian Russell because Brian Russell was disrespectful, because one time Jordan went to the practice facility and Brian Russell was like, yeah, why would you go to baseball? And that's what he took also as motivation. And so the series was tied 2-2. And this is a very interesting part, because Jordan is hungry one night, and it's the night before Game 5, and he wants to eat a pizza, but the pizza, there were like 5 guys bringing the pizza, and it already felt like it was fishy, and it was food poisoning. So the food was poisoned, and this was the flu game. So Jordan played the whole game, completely no energy. He threw up, and they pulled off to win the game. And the Bulls would carry on to win the 1997 NBA Finals, which is interesting because next year, 1998, they would also play the Utah Jazz. And so now we have like a little story timeline about Steve Kerr and how he symbols to John Paxson and stuff. And there's like a timeline from Steve Kerr when he grew up as a kid. I think this is also not very interesting, this part. Just, I know his dad died, and I know he was a very important guy for Steve Kerr, but I know it would go on to Steve Kerr hitting the final shot in 1997 NBA Finals, and he would make it. But I just think it wasn't that interesting. And yeah, and So the Bulls would win the 5th NBA championship, as I already told you. And so the Bulls play Game 7 in the Indiana series, and not back in 1998. So they go back timeline again, and Gus. If you don't know Gus was like a protector, like he was a bodyguard for Jordan, and he became like a second father figure to him. So, but then it turned out that Gus got cancer, and Jordan took this motivation to win the game for Gus. And Steve Kerr hitting like great shots in this series. And the Bulls win the Eastern Conference Finals. And he got the game ball for Gus. I mean, I still think like this is just. There's nobody in this series like who's saying like Jordan is an asshole. There's not one guy who's saying Jordan is an asshole or whatever. It's like okay. So he also trash talked Bird after the game a little. And now we come to episode 10, the final episode. And this starts off, so I think all of the timelines already merged, and the fans are celebrating in Utah. Michaels gives, so there was like a gift from Nike to Jordan, and those shoes were weird because they zoomed like on the shoes and stuff, and they looked like Vans, but with like a Jordan. Whatever. He didn't think about failure in the series. Then the Bulls getting booed, and there was a car like driving by, and there was like a Bulls, like a whole bull on a stick, like getting roasted, if you know what I mean, like on a stick, and then it's like over the oven and you can eat it, but like not real, no real meat. I think that was really hilarious. And the sons and daughter of Michael told like this was like a brutal screaming and stuff, and they didn't like it, and so the game 1 goes to overtime, and Jazz win game 1 by John Stockton hitting the game-winning shot. Then the Bulls tie the game at 1-1, and they play the song Right Here, Right Now, which I love. I think it's epic. You know that song? Right Here, Right Now. And so then game 3 wasn't that exciting. They just blew him out, and Rodman didn't appear on practice after game 3. Before game 3, he went wrestling. And he said he just wanted to try to be himself. And so you have to imagine the NBA finals are going on, and Rodman just thinks, I'm just gonna take off. And he took off to do like a professional wrestling career or something. And then he faces punishment for missing practice. And so the media, everybody wanted to know what happened, and so the bodyguards of Rodman had to sneak Rodman out, and he ran away. And this is why Rodman is interesting. He's just completely different. As he's his own personality. He doesn't care. And game 4, I think, yeah. Rodman was the main factor in game 4 that they win. He got all the rebounds, and he was just he passed the ball out. He did everything what he wanted to, and he did what he did best, getting rebounds. And so they just started to at the beginning they just started to play like horrible, but Rotman helped them to stay on track, and they won Game 4. And so now I think the they lead their 3-1 lead now, and so Jordan can't hit a shot, and they lose Game 5. Pippen gets injured in the worst time ever in Game 6 at the beginning, though his back is bothering him, and so the Bulls have to play without Pippen. And then he starts to play again in the third quarter. And then in the third quarter, this is like this famous Malone Rodman bump, like when like Rodman like Malone is trying to stand up and Rodman is back pushing him, and then they both fall to the ground and over and over again, and then at some point Rodman gets a technical for that. I think that's just hilarious. And after that play, Rodman drills a 20-footer, and he's just not known for shooting. If you don't know, he's just the best defensive player of all time, in my opinion. Okay, now, best rebounder, not best defensive. Yeah. And this was just like, he was just putting his arms like up like, yeah. It's crazy. And so he hit that shot. Yeah, so Pippen goes out again and back in, and this just goes back and forth the whole game, and Game 6 just goes back and forth the whole time. And now we have the greatest NBA Finals moment of all time in any sports. Jordan steals the ball from Malone. This is just a replay or something. But my heart is pounding. And Jordan hits the greatest shot ever over Brian Russell. I know he said in the documentary, I didn't push off and stuff, but I think he pushed off. I know, like, a lot of people are saying, you're just hating on him, but I am not gonna lie. I think he really pushed off him, and if they say he was already in the position to fall back, no. You can see, he just moves his hand, and he just pushes him away a little. Not much, but it's definitely a part of him, like, almost falling to the ground. It wasn't like a ankle breaker or something. And the fans of the energy of like this, like, from the beginning of the series was just gone. It was sucked out of the arena. And then the Malone after the game congratulated the Bulls, and then they just went through like the whole big hotel lobby where a lot of people were there, and then Jordan plays piano and stuff, and Rodman's at the time girlfriend kisses the trophy, and yeah, this was great. Not great, but you know what I mean. It was great for them. And finally, Jerry Krause is getting credit. Yes, and so they're saying, and they said at the beginning again, like, the Bulls changed basketball culture, and there was like this big ceremony after that where like 10,000s of people were there, and I never saw something like that before. But after this, Phil Jackson took a break and left the Bulls. And the whole big franchise just came to an end. And a lot of people say it could have continued, and Jordan himself said he was not satisfied with the ending. And I understand he still had a lot of in his tank, and after this they met up in the practice facility. Phil Jackson told him like to write down what the team meant to them. They should read it in front of them and then burn it. It was like a ritual, and I think that was like also pretty cool. And so this is like a story of from like being the most shitty team of all time to being the most greatest team of all time. Then they show some Bulls 90s flashback, and then Jordan just standing up and leaving, and it's the end. So I liked it. The whole series, great footage. I've never seen of that footage, like the whole locker room footage footage and stuff, and when they were in France and stuff. I think it was just, as I said, it was just too much Jordan positivity. Just too. I know he was a great player. I know that. Just, it was too much. There was nobody saying like he's an asshole or something, and they probably just edited that out. Like I think like Patrick Ewing like said like not enough. Like he's just said little. I think he probably said some bad things about Jordan, but it was still a spectacular story and documentary. Yes. So, if you like this video, please leave a like. If you haven't subscribed yet, turn on notifications and subscribe, of course. And next week, I am definitely gonna bring the 10 all-time list. And this time, I can finally bring my own opinion again. I just wanted to talk about the Jordan documentary because this was the first time in like 2 months when we actually had to do something with basketball again. So yeah, and maybe also reasons I don't like Space Jam a lot. That's also unpopular opinion. Maybe not a lot of people not gonna like that either. Yes. Okay. Until next time. Peace.